one of the biggest problems with broken games, in terms of lack of understanding of the issues around smell loss and smell disorders amongst the medical profession, is this fact that there is very little awareness of what the sense of smell actually does for us in the first place. And there are a number of reasons for that. I think potentially the main one being that if you think about blindness and deafness, the loss of sight or the loss of hearing can be explained very easily and very readily. However, to try and explain to someone what the loss of the sense of smell is like, that's a lot harder, because the sense of smell affects us and operates on a much sort of deeper rooted, sort of psychological and emotional level than any of our other senses. And one of the two sort of things that people often will say to me, people with a normal sense of smell, if you like. So when I sort of say, I'm setting up this charity for people who, to generalise, lost the sense of smell, people go, oh, why is that then? Sense of smell? Well, I suppose it must be. Well, it actually must be quite handy, because, when you're changing the camera to tray. And then you go, well, all right, well, what would it be like if I was to say, turn around and say to you, okay, you can no longer experience a lot of the flavour of the food that you eat. And when you go out for a walk on a beautiful summer's day in the countryside, it's like walking in a vacuum, because you can't smell any of the things around you. Or if you've got distortion of the sense of smell, everything may smell absolutely revolting, to the point where I've had people contact me about it, don't even want to leave the house because the outside can smell horrendous. Or when you say to people, well, what if I said to you, you were never going to be able to smell your wife, your husband, or your children ever again? And there's this huge sort of undercurrents of all these different things, all these different ways in which smell affects us. It's intrinsically linked to mood, memory, and emotion. Memory is a very interesting thing. There's a lady called Dr. Rachel Hertz, who's sort of a world-leading expert on the sense of smell, and she's done research into memories and smells. And she sort of demonstrated that memories that are evoked by smells in people tend to have a lot more emotional resonance than memories evoked by any other sensory means, whether it's sight, say looking at photographs or whatever. There's also this sort of, potentially people in this room again will identify with this sort of sense of isolation, and I think that works in two ways. One being, there's this feeling, and I've certainly had this feeling of feeling disconnected from the world around you, and disconnected from so many of the pleasurable experiences of life. It's like nothing's the same anymore. You can't experience life in as rich a way as you could do previously. But not only that, there's another sort of isolation side of things, in that because there's never been anything in existence for people before, most people can't go to the doctors and get symptom advice. Most people that talk to, whether it's friends, family, don't really understand the issues the smell or smell problems can cause. Well, that increases the isolation further. And one thing I just want to say at this point, and try and keep this in mind throughout the day, is we're here today, and we're basically talking about smell. We're talking about smell loss, all sorts of smell and taste disorders. And one of the things I really want you to do, because I've been banging on about this to people incessantly for sort of the best part of 2 years now, I'm doing a lot of talking, and I'm sort of to people and I'm meeting people who go, wow, this is amazing, I've never thought about it before. Now you said this to me, it's really made me feel how, I never realised how important smell is. Well, we're in quite an amazing position here, because we have the power to be able to sort of make people change their attitudes. Not only our friends, family, and people we know, but also doctors. And one of the things I really want to sort of encourage, one of the key messages to get across today, is this idea of talking. And let's start talking about it. And let's start talking and not feel sort of embarrassed to talk about not just how our problem has affected us, but also in terms of some of the things we're hopefully learning today, in terms of how smell works, how it affects us, actually using that to developing sort of some tools to actually be able to go back to your doctor potentially and say, actually, last time I came to see you and spoke to you about my problem, you were totally dismissive. You said it wasn't a problem, you know, oh, nothing can be done. Well, actually, I've joined this organisation called Fifth Sense, and I've learned this, and this. I've met a great many other people who have a similar problem to me, and there are also some medical professionals doing research in this area. Here's a research paper, I'd like to take away and read it, and I'd like you to give me a referral to one of the specialists. And that's one of the key things that I'd like people to take away today. Moving on from that, so I want people to, bear that in mind throughout the course today, and just thinking about, what can I learn from today? How can I maybe take that away and start talking to other people about it? Going back to the sort of psychology and the way in which it affects us, I'd like to welcome now Tom Laughton, a Fifth Sense member, who very kindly has agreed to talk to us for 10 minutes on the sort of psychological impacts of smell loss and how it sort of affects his life. Tom, please. Tom, it's great to meet you, and over to you. Thank you.
So I'll touch on a few things, some of which Duncan's already spoken about. And so, in thinking about this has been fantastically helpful for me, because it's not just about the emotional impact on my life, but it's also about my experience of life, my experience in the world being impacted. My own story was that when I was 19, so I think it was on the 20th of October 1990, I was a student. I was 2 weeks into my first year of university. I was walking up the street in the university, and out of nowhere, I was punched. My nose was completely shattered to pieces, and ever since, I've only ever had a very tiny hint of smell and taste. I was going to talk about this last, but I'll talk about it now. It's coming up. But a huge thing for me has been that I haven't been able to talk about this. To be standing here now in front of a group of people who get it is extraordinary. I just want to say that up front. And thank you for being here. And hearing the in the background as Duncan was speaking just now is absolutely fantastic. Because finally I'm here, a bunch of people can get it. A few weeks ago, when I was thinking about coming here and thinking about what perhaps to say, I was staying in a country house. And the beautiful weather we had, as the smells coming out, I was just catching these little edges of it. There was pine, there was lavender, there was flowers everywhere. I could just catch these little edges and smells around. Just little tiny little bits. And I remember back to experience when I was 16. I was 19, I'm now 42. And remembering back to that experience, when I was 16 and walking around a similar place, I remember being completely immersed in the soup of smells that I had, and how intense the experience was at that time. And here I am, 23 years later, whatever it is, 23 years later, I was just catching those little edges. And there was something very different about it, and very different about all my experiences. In some ways, it's very hard to tell exactly what the experience has been, what the change has been, because I've got used to it, because somehow it is pointing on what is it I've lost, what it is that's not there anymore. It's very, very hard to get hold of. And all the experiences I've had since have been, yes, okay, I can see the experience and I can sort of watch and observe. And I was trying to get at what is the difference between seeing experiences and having to see and smell it as well. What I really got down to is this, is that when I see the world, it stays where it is. But when I smell, the world enters into me. And there's something very key in that the smell, actually, by coming in, it breaks down a barrier between me and the world outside. But with that barrier very much still in place, all I can ever be is an observer, a watcher, and a listener. But the consequence of that is this nagging sense of unreality. Sometimes I feel a real desperation to get into experiences. And I don't find a sense of fulfillment or satisfaction. I was expecting some emotion to come up. This is quite odd.
You're doing really so well. Wonderful. Absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. Let's use that.
I think we all want to say it.
So, lack of reality, lack of connection, lack of fulfillment. And the isolation one was a big one. I didn't really realise how much it was there until Duncan created this organisation. And I realised that I didn't really want to talk. I didn't think it could be possible. I'd seen online forums, but I thought, what's the point? And what I really got out of this, my conversation with Duncan on the phone a week or two ago, was the first one in 23 years I've had of actually getting out of isolation and stepping into it. The isolation was an inevitable consequence of losing my sense of smell, for actually being able to get out of that sense of reality into something else. But the isolation also came through having doctors that I've talked to, some very fantastic ENT surgeons otherwise, through the repair and reconstruction and some amazing passages. But when I came to say, what about my sense of smell, I had exactly the same response, which is, while talking to friends who would say, I'd say, oh, I've got maybe sort of 5% or 0 is my sense of smell. Oh, okay. And again, no response. So the actual loss itself and the experience being different, the engagement I've had with health professionals, they've been fantastic in many other ways. The inability to talk to friends, all of these really built up in so many different ways, that sense of isolation. Standing here now, as I said earlier, is fantastic. And thank you for being here. And thank you, Dan. But if you're anything like me, that isolation is something you stepped into. That although this is very much about changing attitudes, about the public to health professionals, etc., just really look and see, and I know for me that the attitude I've had to change is my own first. And I'll back to you if anyone's in the same position.